You have an ambition to be the next Skid Row, right?
I know you're not supposed to compare bands or artists in the here and now, in fear of sounding like a strangely incoherent pitchfork rider crying out for attention. But what gives? It's been a while since I've done one of these confessional album word vomit videos, so if you've subscribed ages ago and have been patiently waiting for me to upload another one amongst all the crap I usually post, well, you're in luck today. I'm making the most of my depressing Sunday by celebrating the 21st anniversary of two very monumental albums, Turn on the Bright Lights by Interpol and One Beat by Sleater-Kinney. As we know quite well, 21 is seen as a very special age in the US, which means that if these albums turn 21, they are legally allowed to go to clubs. So, turn on the bright lights. No, don't actually, if you're like me and it's sunny out. I really wanted to get into this album. I knew Interpol is one of the most beloved cult bands of the 2000s and also the most hated, namely Your Favourite Band Sucks podcast.
You could say that Interpol actually cost you a friendship.
And Sleater-Kinney, which is why this makes for a great album comparison. I can't say I like the pretty half-assed song titles for Turn on the Bright Lights. Obviously it's all about the song, not the title, but get someone who's never heard of Interpol to take one look at the track list and they'll probably go, is this some top secret agent documents? Probably fitting since the band is named after the major international policing organisation. So then again, maybe an inside joke within the band, but I don't know, I like a bit of humour, but if your album starts off with Untitled and ends with Leif Erikson, it's hard to see the dedication in the band's. The second track, Obstacle 1, refers to a destructive relationship gone wrong because of the lyric, you go stabbing yourself in the neck. I don't want to say it's a song about 9/11, but if it is, then it's a parallel to the second song on One Beat, Far Away, which was written about the attacks on the Trade Center.
Turn on the TV, watch the world explode in flames, don't leave the house.
The next song, NYC, is a gentle ode to how Interpol's native New York is like watching porn. I don't know if I need to explain further. I'm more mesmerised, however, by the fact that Sleater-Kinney's fifth song has the same subject matter, except it's a love letter to their own Portland, Oregon. I feel like this record is what you'd listen to if you'd like to have a headache on purpose. I'm sorry, it just does not resonate with me at all. I'm not quite sure how people feel the way they do with this album, in that it's the greatest shit they've ever heard. I really want to feel that way, but I don't want to be a cliched is this it person, because who wants to be like everyone else? I gave Turn on the Bright Lights a time of day and it just didn't do it for me, unfortunately. Last night I was watching Interpol's special 1 hour set they recently did at Outside Lands, where they played Turn on the Bright Lights from start to finish. I thought it was going to be quick, it only lasted 1 hour. But no, there was still half an hour to go, and I just wanted Paul Banks to stop moaning, so I could go to bed. Honestly, this is a love-hate relationship between a brother and sister, with all the funny traits both albums have. If I had to like any song on this album, it would probably be Stella Was a Diver and She Was Always Down, only because it sounds a little like Is This It, which sounds like the original Pixies' Where Is My Mind. And that's not fair to the band if I say that's my favourite song. But God, can they think of some better song titles? Who is going to show up to a party and say, my favourite song is Stella Was a Diver and She Was Always Down?
Hello.
Oh, Elaine, this is my Aunt Stella.
Stella!
I think people are going to think you're on drugs or something like that. That's how much I've barely got anything to say about this album. There's just nothing to say. Now, this album is going to be a little more detailed because, yeah, I liked it a lot. It's called One Beat, but it's anything but. I personally loved the previous record, All Hands on the Bad One, and it is still one of my favourites. But after I listened to One Beat, it changed my perception of Sleater-Kinney and rock music in general forever. The album starts fresh. Whatever your first impressions of Sleater-Kinney are, it all goes away by the introduction of the drums. Beautifully done by Janet Weiss. Corin sings like a child in this one, like a hopeful kid who wants to see the good kind of change, which is obviously not something a lot of kids were seeing at that time, but also because Corin was a new mum. A lot of these songs hint at motherhood in the best possible ways. So don't you dare call this Sleater-Kinney's mum era or mum album. I will not be tolerating that. Only one member of Sleater-Kinney ever became a mum, FYI. The second song, Far Away, takes a turn of hopelessness as we experience in real time the horrific terrorist attacks of September 11. Don't stop me from saying it again. Oh, a certified hood anthem about playing with yourself is such a nod to Interpol's PDA. But in case you didn't know, stands for Public Displays of Affection. I actually didn't know that. I had to Google it just then. I'm not stupid. They're obviously two opposite sides of the spectrum, but that's what makes them identical. What you can do in public and what you can't.
Welcome to Sleater-Kinney.
And also for Sleater-Kinney to be on Conan's show from all the crap acts they usually have on is a big deal for me. Meanwhile, the sixth track on Turn on the Bright Lights is Hands Away. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Step aside, hands away. Whatever could be the resemblance. Guys, I'm telling you, these albums were made for each other. Combat Rock is the seventh song. Combat Rock is also a Clash album of the same name, but Sleater-Kinney can get away with it because they just copied the name, not the band's sound, and made it their own. Pitchfork gave One Beat a 9.1 and Turn on the Bright Lights a 9.5. I can deal with that, but I don't like how they rated One Beat the same as Is This It, when Sleater-Kinney is clearly the better band and is in no comparison to the Strokes, let alone Interpol. If One Beat was rated 9.6 and Turn on the Bright Lights 9.5 and Is This It 9.1, maybe that would make more sense. But why would Sleater-Kinney, who've been around a decade longer, be graded the same as the Strokes' Is This It? Don't get me wrong, Is This It is a classic album, but I don't like how it's in the same category as Sleater-Kinney. Sleater-Kinney doesn't deserve that. I don't know how Turn on the Bright Lights is rated so damn high. I mean, Pitchfork is always the default music site who tries to differentiate themselves from other music magazines. So if Rolling Stone gives Turn on the Bright Lights 3.5 stars, for example, that means Pitchfork rates it much higher. Even the most positive review for Turn on the Bright Lights confesses, quote, "The tragedy of music press is that when the buzz spirits spins out of control, people are apt to question a great band's validity." Ryan Schreiber, the founder of Pitchfork, gave Is This It a particularly scathing review. Sure, it was rated 9.1, but what difference does it make when the starting sentence is, quote, "Hype, it's a bitch." Therefore, Is This It score was slightly lowered on purpose than a solid 10 out of 10 from Generic Music magazine without making it seem too deliberate. Pitchfork doesn't like the hype, and who can blame them? But that doesn't mean it can be excused that Sleater-Kinney is seen as the same level as the Strokes' debut. Not gonna lie, one of my faves on One Beat is Combat Rock, mainly because it has a Strokes riff on it. Whether that was thought of before the release of Is This It or afterwards as a direct fuck you to the Strokes, which I can honestly agree with. This follows up in Pristina, a jaunty pop track about a girl called Pristina who either is being teased for having too much dorky fun or not enough fun that teenage girls get up to, i.e. me. When they sing, "Oh, you want to tempt her with your dirty rock and roll." Who else could Sleater-Kinney be referencing other than the Strokes? I can't think of any other new popular band for them to criticise as being, quote, dirty rock and roll, because the White Stripes opened for them in 2000, so I can't imagine there would be any bitterness between them. Interpol hadn't come out yet, and as usual, I'm overanalyzing this far too much. It could just be seen as something simple as dirty fuckboys, which too many girls have to deal with, which is also referenced in the Donnas song Dirty Denim. But I like to interpret it as a direct reference to the Strokes. One Beat was compared a lot to that of a 2000s mainstream garage revival band, strangely enough. The producer for the album, John Goodmanson, told Seattle Weekly, quote, "To me, it's not a record that's built for alternative radio. Yet, surprisingly, the reaction from everyone I've played it for has been like, wow, these guys are really going for it." Sleater-Kinney closes out One Beat with 3 great outro songs without feeling like filler: Funeral Song, Hollywood Ending, and Sympathy. What I love about Funeral Song is Carrie Brownstein sings, quote, "There's nothing left to see, turn out the lights."